Hello. Today we have Mike here, and we're gonna talk about a very interesting topic.
Yes, indeed.
That's Mike over here. And then we're not sure about the topic yet, but it's about information addiction or information addict, which we consider ourselves as information addicts, definitely.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you wanna give us like a small or initial idea of the information addiction we're currently experiencing?
Yeah, absolutely. But I first want to just start out by saying, though, that I'm so honored to be on your show. It's like I've been looking up to you for all of these years, and to be talking to you in person.
Yeah, I know.
So, really,
we got a lot of requests from you or
yes.
for you
My
too.
They were saying, I have a pretty active fan base.
But it's definitely good to have you on the podcast or on the situation we have in here.
So back to information addiction. We started out noticing at a certain point that there are a lot of parallels between how we see addiction works in general, like the classic addictions, substances or food or sugar or whatnot, and the way that we consume information. And we started noticing that the consumption of information and the way we're going about it really does resemble in many ways an addiction pattern.
Yeah, and I think we should talk about what ways, because there is the way I see it is, the first of all is we like it very much, which means probably produce some kind of dopamine or other chemicals in our brain. So it's very enjoyable activity for us to do.
Right.
So that's the first.
Yeah, which is a hallmark of addiction. You consistently go back to the stimulus to get more and more of it.
Yeah, and that's produced like a whole circle. So you want it, and that's of course also when we spoke about it before, that we have this, we develop this tolerance.
Right.
So we don't get as high, right? We don't get as high with it. So we need more and more. So regular tolerance, like any other substance you will consume.
Right. So I think it's technically called becoming sensitized to the stimulus. So your brain accustomed to it, and it no longer releases the same amount of neurotransmitters, and then you need more of it to get the brain to do what it was doing before on less. So, but how does that show itself with information? Is that we notice that we're consuming more and more to get that same effect of novelty and understanding. We now need more and more. So if back in the day we could listen for like half an hour a day, and that would be great.
It would get very high from this.
Yeah. And now it's like
the whole book.
More time, more books at a time, quicker speeds, more activities where we're still consuming. And that really does look like an addiction. It just keeps piling itself on. But I think it would be interesting to explore. I mean, you can say something else about the addiction, but the other interesting question is, okay, maybe it's an addiction, but is it a bad addiction?
Is it a good or bad? And yeah, that's a very good question to ask. I think my view on this is that any addiction has some bad to it. So it doesn't matter if it's a good. That's definitely considered one of the best addiction you can possibly have, of course. So if you can choose what addiction to have, take this one. But I think there is a problem along the way with this one too. First of all, the tolerance thing. So you put yourself to not a failure, but you want to give some limits. You want to have some limits, like you do to any other substance you're full for. So you're addicted for. So let's say you're addicted to alcohol, you would want to put some kind of limits and barriers, so you're not gonna lose whole tolerance to it. So you need to consume more and more and more. You're not gonna. So
Right.
In other words,
you have to curb the consumption.
Because you're losing from it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So for you, for your own sake, which means that you're gonna enjoy it more. So let's say you take a few days off every once in a while, or things like that. Like what I do with weed or with alcohol. I want to stop for a day or two just in order to get a better high the day after, the few days after. So for that reason only.
But I think it's an interesting point, but I'm not sure that the only reason that we read is to get that high, that dopamine rush or whatever it is. It feels to me like there's more there. And therefore it's not just about getting that little dose every time you finish a book or something. There's something deeper about that process, I think, where you can't completely compare it to like weed or something.
And you saying that because it has value to your life.
Yeah, exactly.
It has any value, but you can say the same for any other addiction.
No, but here it's different because with weed you feel better, so you can say that it's contributing to your life because you feel better and happier or whatnot. But here, I feel like with books it's deeper because you can read something in a book that literally changes a completely different area of your life because you read it in the book. Like you read...
I tend to agree with you. I tend to agree with you about it.
So stopping might be smart in terms of you get your dopamine back, but you're also losing out on, let's say hypothetically, we say we need to stop for 2 days a week. You're losing out on 2 days of understanding more about how the world works and therefore having less improvement in your life.
That is a good point. That is a very good point. But you can say that it's good for you to stop every once in a while just in order to better accumulate or that information.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That's another view to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do tend to agree with you about the fact that it's definitely important for your life. But I do have, and I'm just gonna play in devil advocate here, that the question is how much you really help your life. So let's say you're consuming 10 books a week. Just take a arbitrary number. The question, what's gonna happen if you're gonna consume 8? Will that significantly decrease your understanding in the world? And I think that's a good question to ask.
Yeah, I'm not sure the question to ask is if it will decrease your understanding. It will just...
Because you said...
It won't increase.
Yeah, it won't increase, but the question... But no worries, we take that. So even if it won't increase, by how much? The question is how much 2 books can really change your life in a profound way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing to think about. And I think it's hard to know every book individually how it affects your life. But I can say for sure, and I think you'd agree that combined, just reading a lot has a huge effect.
Yeah.
Hard to say which book did what.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying like maybe there is like if you decreasing your consumption by let's say 10%, 5%, that might not have a huge effect on your understanding.
Yeah, that
so to call.
Yeah, for sure. When you're talking about small percentages like that, I probably agree. So yeah, I think we can conclude.
Yeah, we
can conclude that it definitely resembles an addiction. It has that same needing to go back to it all the time and the sensitization.
All components might have even more than we discussed. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, the one
like
component
more similarities.
Is that addiction. One of the parameters for addiction is that it causes a problem in your life. That's like in the official description of addiction.
I'm not sure if we should go into that right now, but that might cause some problems in your life. Social problems, for example. I can see that happens.
Yeah, maybe we need to save that for the next episode. But
or another similarity, I do want to add another similarity is that you have how do you call this? Not tolerance. So when you withdraw, so we do definitely. I definitely experienced some withdrawal, and I think we discussed it once. That if you don't consume information, you definitely have a withdrawal, like a profound withdrawal. It's hard. So that's another similarities to any other addiction.
Yeah.
So.
And then we said that it's probably. I mean, you mentioned that it's probably the best addiction you can have. If you're going to be addicted to something, it should be books. There can be downsides, and the one concrete suggestion that we agreed on is that maybe deliberately consuming a little less could actually be helpful in the long run. But overall, we don't think if you're addicted to reading nonfiction, you're in a good place, bro.
Oh, no, this is disclaimer, we only talking about here about nonfiction. If you're reading fiction, that's addiction, like a legit addiction that does not add any value to your life. It's just like watching.
I don't know, they don't add any value.
Yeah, just like watching TV. It's same. You can also get some information from TV. You can always claim that you're acquiring. So maybe not at all, but we're not talking here about that.
All right. Well, thanks you so much for having me on.
Oh man, that was awesome. That was awesome. We should do it again one time.
That was amazing. Yeah.
All right, guys. Adios.